Most people who complain about a noisy neighbor eventually move out and forget about it. Roderick Croft moved out. He tried to forget. It took 5 years, and his 7-year-old daughter doing homework at the kitchen table. She knocked on the table with her knuckles, just playing around, and Roderick went completely still. He recognized it, the pattern, the exact sequence he'd heard through his ceiling almost every night for a year. He asked his daughter what she'd just tapped. What she told him sent a chill down his spine. That was the moment that Roderick Croft understood what had been coming through the ceiling above his bed. But let me start from the beginning. Roderick Croft was 31 when he moved to Durham, fresh out of a long relationship, new job at a logistics firm on the Arneson Retail Park. He needed somewhere fast, somewhere cheap, somewhere he could just exist for a while without having to think too hard. First floor flat on Framwellgate Peath. One of those narrow climbing streets near the river. Old stone terraces, windows that rattle when lorries pass. He moved in on a Saturday in early October. The first night, he thought someone had dropped something upstairs, a thud, just past midnight. He looked at the ceiling, waited, nothing else, went back to sleep. The second night, something softer, rhythmic, almost careful. By the fourth night, Roderick was lying awake, listening to it, and couldn't have told you why it bothered him as much as it did. It wasn't loud, that was the thing. It wasn't the kind of noise you could reasonably complain about. It was the kind of noise that got under you. The building had 3 flats. Roderick on the first floor, a postgrad named Elliot on the ground floor, doing a PhD in medieval history, generally quiet, pleasant enough, and above Roderick, in the top flat, a man listed on the entrance hall letterboard as H. Vane. No first name, just the initial. Roderick saw him 3 times in 11 months. Each time felt off in a way he couldn't quite pin down. Vane was tall, well over 6 feet. He moved through the shared hallway like someone who had already mentally left the building. No eye contact, no acknowledgement. Roderick told himself the man was just private. Durham is full of that type. He gave him the benefit of the doubt for about 3 weeks. Late October. Roderick was in bed by 11 with an early start the next morning. But by midnight he was awake. The sound was coming from directly above him. Soft, genuinely soft. The kind of sound you'd miss if the street outside wasn't quiet. But the street was quiet, and Roderick was a light sleeper, and the sound had a quality he struggled to describe later. Deliberate was the word he kept coming back to. Like whatever was producing it was keeping itself just below the threshold of complaint. Tap, 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 tap. Then the whole thing again, from the beginning. He assumed pipes. Old buildings in Durham have plumbing that operates like a percussion section. Pressure changes, temperature drops, the usual. He turned over, tried to sleep, but pipes don't repeat themselves. Not like that. Not with that internal consistency. The same pause in the same place, the same cluster of 3, the same gap before it cycled back. Pipes are random. This wasn't random. This had structure. He lay in the dark and listened to it for 20 minutes before it stopped. Then he slept. Next night, it was back. By December, it was just part of the flat. Midnight or just after. Sometimes 12:15. Occasionally pushing toward 1 in the morning. But always the same place in the ceiling, directly above the head of his bed, against the far wall. And always the same sequence. Tap, 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 tap. Start again. Roderick knocked on Vane's door twice. No answer either time. Not even a shift behind the door. Not a footstep. Not a shadow in the gap underneath. He slid a note under once. It disappeared. Nothing came back. He mentioned it to Elliot downstairs. Elliot confirmed he'd sometimes heard it filtering through Roderick's floor. He'd assumed it was Roderick himself moving around. Then he mentioned almost in passing that Vane had lived up there for over 10 years, that he'd never really seen the man come and go. Roderick asked what he meant by that. Elliot shrugged. I mean, I assume he does. I've just never actually seen it. Roderick bought earplugs. They helped with the sound, but not the sensation. The pattern came through the mattress on the bad nights, a faint vibration rather than a sound, and that was somehow worse. Your ears you can block. What comes up through the bed frame, through the springs, through the mattress itself, that's harder to shut out. He started catching himself tapping it without meaning to, at his desk at work, on the steering wheel at traffic lights, knuckles on surfaces, his hand moving through the sequence before he'd registered it was happening. He'd notice, stop, stare at his hand. Some evenings the pattern would run in his head for hours without a sound to trigger it. Just there, cycling, like something his brain had decided it needed to hold on to. January. Durham in January is a specific kind of cold. The wind comes down from the North Pennines, and the city's stone absorbs it and, well, gives it back all night. Roderick had the heating on, but the flat stayed cold in the corners, cold near the windows, cold against the far wall where his bed was. He woke at 2 a.m., heart already going. That instant, total alertness, where your body knows something has changed before your mind does. The tapping was wrong, same pattern, but the pauses between cycles were gone. It was running straight through, one sequence bleeding immediately into the next, faster, harder, stripped of that careful, considered quality. It had the feeling of repetition, past the point of patience. Like something that had been saying the same thing for a long time had stopped trying to be polite about it. Roderick sat up. He timed it. He didn't know why. He just needed something to do other than listen. He watched his phone. 53 minutes, then silence, a solid minute of it, and then a different sound, something being moved, dragged maybe, starting from directly above the head of his bed and pulling slowly across the ceiling toward what he judged was the center of the room above. Heavy, measured, then it stopped. He did not hear anything else that night. He did not sleep. In the morning, heading out, he stopped on the landing above his own floor. He didn't know why, some pull he couldn't account for, and stood outside Vane's door. That was when he noticed it. A pale smear near the bottom of the door frame. He looked at it for a moment, couldn't determine what had caused it. Paint, maybe, or something dried into the stone. He kept moving. March, almost spring. Roderick came home on a Tuesday evening to find a council notice affixed to Vane's door. Environmental health. The kind of document produced when a formal welfare concern has been raised. The letting agent, a woman named Sandra, Sunderland office, phone manner like she was reading from a card, called him the next morning. She'd tried to reach Vane's emergency contact, a brother listed in the tenancy paperwork. The number was out of service. She'd arranged for a locksmith. H. Vane was not in the flat. His things were. Clothes in the wardrobe, books on the shelves, reading glasses on the kitchen table. The heating was running, the electricity was on. The bed had been slept in, but not recently. The surfaces held the faint, even layer of dust that accumulates when nothing in a room has been disturbed for weeks. His coat was on the hook by the door. Roderick asked if there was anything else. Sandra paused. She said there were marks on the floor, in the far corner of the main room. She said the police would be having a look. She used the word routine. Police spoke to Roderick briefly the following week. Just one visit, a few questions about whether he'd noticed anything unusual, whether he'd seen Vane come and go. Nothing came of it, really. No follow-up. No missing persons report matching H. Vane appeared in any record Roderick could find afterward. Roderick submitted his notice 2 weeks later, was out by the end of April. The flat was relet that summer. It has changed hands twice since. Roderick Croft lives in Gateshead now. He has a daughter, Maisie, 7 years old, the kind of child who collects facts because, well, knowing things makes her feel safe. Last April, kitchen table, homework spread between them, a worksheet on historical communication, signals, codes. Maisie rapped her knuckles on the table, showing her dad the pattern she'd just learned. Roderick set his mug down. "Do that again," he said. She did, patient, slightly puzzled by his expression. "What does it mean?" She looked at him the way children look at adults who are slow to understand. "SOS, Daddy. Short, 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 long, 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 short, short, short." Roderick excused himself, walked to the bathroom, stood over the sink. What was replaying in his head, with the precise, nauseating clarity of something finally understood, was 11 months of ceilings, the flat on Framwell Gate, Peth, the sound that had worked its way so deep into him that his hands had been reproducing it for years without his permission. Not pipes, not a restless neighbour. A message, sent night after night through 2 floors of Georgian stone, directly into the room where he slept for 11 months, while he lay underneath it, wondering whether it was worth complaining. And then the thought that came after, and that he has not been able to put down since. If H. Vane had been gone for weeks by the time anyone opened that door, if the dust on the surfaces told the truth about how long that flat had been sitting empty, then who had been tapping? What had been tapping? Night after night, patient, tireless, into the floor directly above his bed, knowing somehow to stop whenever a door opened, knowing how to wait. Roderick Croft does not go back to Durham. There is no record of H. Vane in any public database he has been able to access. No missing persons file. The case, if there was one, produced nothing. The flat on Framwell Gate, Peth, is currently occupied. No current tenant has reported anything unusual. But Roderick thinks about that sometimes. What unusual even means in that context. Whether you have to understand something for it to be affecting you. Whether the people living there now lie awake occasionally. A sound from the upper flat. A rhythm they can't quite place. And tell themselves it's the building. The message is still going, he believes that now. Short. Pause. Short, short, short. Pause. Short, short. It doesn't stop just because no one is listening. It just waits for someone who will. We'll be back next week, same time at 3 a.m. Till then, sleep well. And if you're in a new place, old building, old walls, the kind of city where things have been sitting in the stone for longer than anyone alive can account for, and a few weeks in you start hearing something through the ceiling at night, don't try to figure out what it means, because Roderick Croft spent 5 years not knowing, and knowing is worse.